Hey guys, we're going to talk about radians and converting between degrees and radians. So far at this point, you've probably been doing a lot of things with degrees. Now I want to introduce you to what in the world is a radian and how we can convert between degrees and radians. So to start, let's just talk about what in the world is a radian. So we have a circle, and hopefully we've dealt with those at this point. And every circle has a radius, which is a distance from the center to the edge, the circumference of the circle. Now here's what a radian is if I could take this distance right here from the center to the edge, and I was able to bend it and lie it on the edge of my circle. So on this arc right here. This distance would be the same as the distance from the center to the side of my circle. So this would be 1 radian. So if you take the radius, take that distance, and we're able to stretch it along the edge of the circle, that is 1 radian. And what you could do is you could add multiple radians here, and something very unique is going to happen. No matter what for this circle, so if I draw my line straight across, this measure of this angle would be 180 degrees. So a semicircle is 180 degrees. What also works out is that this distance all the way around on the circumference, that arc, will be exactly pi as a distance, or pi radians. So the measure of this angle is pi radians. So we're dealing with 180 degrees is the same thing as pi radians. Now this works for all circles. So say I had a much smaller circle here with a center and a radius. That radius, if we could do that on the arc there, it would require 3 and then 0.145. All that. 3 radians would be about here. The full distance of 180 degrees would be pi radians. So a radian is just take the radius, and 1 radius, or 1 radian, is the same as the radius of the circle. And 180 degrees is pi radians. So if you wanted the full circle, that would be 2 pi radians is the same as 360 degrees. So the key thing here that we want to take away from all this on what is a radian and the connection between radians and degrees is 180 degrees is the exact same thing as pi radians. That is the fact that we're going to hold true. Now, we're going to be able to use this idea to convert from degrees to radians and from radians to degrees. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm starting with 225. The key thing here is degrees. So I want to convert from degrees to radians. Now, the idea that I kind of use to help get through this is if you had, say, this equation, x divided by 7 equals 2, and I said, hey, I want you to solve this equation. Well, we can't get x alone yet because we have this division by 7. So how do you get rid of something in the denominator? You multiply by the same thing in the numerator. So the 7 would cancel with the 7. You'll still have that 7 over there. So whenever you have the same thing in the numerator and the denominator, they cancel out. So here's how we're going to convert between degrees and radians. Is I have 225 degrees. What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by a fraction here. I'm going to have 180 degrees on one part of the fraction and pi radians on the other part. Since I want to get rid of degrees, I'm going to put degrees in the denominator. So I'm going to put 180 degrees in the denominator. In the numerator, I'm going to put my other piece there, which is pi radians. And the reason we can do this is I have this degree symbol in the numerator, the top, as well as in the bottom, the denominator. When you have that, they cancel out. So multiplying this together, 225 times pi would be 225 pi. And in my denominator here, I just have a 180. Now, most students aren't very good at reducing fractions here, but we do want to reduce this as much as possible. If you struggle quite a bit with reducing, here's what you can do. With a graphing calculator, you can type in 225 divided by 180, which that's going to give you a decimal. But again, we want to report this as a fraction, so what you can do is hit the math button. The first option, that arrow frac, is going to take any number you type in, and it's going to give it to you in fraction form. So it's going to take our 1.25, that's the answer, and it's going to convert it to a fraction. So I get 5 over 4. So if I want to take 225 degrees, that is 5 pi divided by 4 radians. So that is from going from degrees to radians. So if I want to go the opposite way, I want to go from radians to degrees, we're going to do something similar but just slightly different. So I'm dealing with negative 5 pi over 6. The reason I know this is radians is it has a pi in it. The reason I knew that was degrees was obviously the degree symbol. So if I want to get rid of radians so I can be in degrees, well, currently I have a pi in the numerator or the top, so we're going to put pi radians in the denominator. Well, we're going to use this, again, this fact, pi radians is equal to 180 degrees, so I'm going to put 180 degrees up top. And the reason this works is I'm going to be able to take this pi radians and cancel that with pi, because I have the same thing, top and bottom. So if I multiply here, negative 5 times 180 is negative 900 degrees, divided by, and all I have is a 6 on bottom. So I have negative 900 degrees divided by 6, which when you divide that, you get negative 150 degrees. So negative 5 pi over 6 is negative 150 degrees. And that was a brief video on talking about radians, as well as converting from degrees to radians and radians to degrees.